If you've ever Googled, do I have ADHD or am I autistic? You've probably come across online quizzes and screeners. But do they actually mean anything? Today, I'm breaking down the most common screening tools for ADHD and autism, what they can tell you, and what they definitely can't. Hey, my name's Jess, and I talk all things about ADHD, autism, and being neurodivergent. Just a quick disclaimer, screeners aren't diagnostic, but they can be a helpful first step in understanding yourself before assessment or diagnosis. And honestly, I tried most of these before I was diagnosed. So I'll share my personal take. Let's get into it. The ASRS is a quick 6-question screener for ADHD. This is often used by GPs to decide if it warrants further investigation. This one looks at symptoms like inattention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity. But it's very focused on the stereotypical presentation of ADHD. So it might miss us ADHDers or women who mask their symptoms very well. If you've not seen it before, but you're interested in taking that screening questionnaire, let's go through it. These are the 6 questions, and you're going to answer never, rarely, sometimes, often, or very often. And I'll tell you at the end how you score yourself. So, first question, how often do you have trouble wrapping up the final details of a project once the challenging parts have been done? The second question, how often do you have difficulty getting things in order when you have a task that requires organisation? The third question is, how often do you have trouble remembering appointments or obligations? Question 4 is, when you have a task that requires a lot of thought, how often do you avoid or delay getting started? Question 5, how often do you fidget or squirm with your hands and feet when you have to sit down for a long time? And then question 6, how often do you feel overly active and compelled to do things as if you were driven by a motor? So if you said often or very often to 4 or more of those questions, then that would warrant further investigation. The second questionnaire for adult ADHD that might be used is called the Conners Adult ADHD Rating Scales. Now, this one is far more comprehensive. It's often used in clinical settings with self-report and observer versions. This one digs into emotional regulation, executive function, and even impulsivity in relationships. One big downside, though, is that you probably won't find this one free online. It's usually clinician administered. And now onto some common autism screeners. The first one we're going to talk about is the AQ10, which I'll go through that in a moment, but I just want to mention first, it is quite limited. It mainly focuses on social interaction and patterns, but that's only a tiny part of the autistic experience. And again, if you're ADHD, you might get missed with this one. So with this screener, there are 10 statements that I'm going to go through now, and you have to answer them with definitely agree, slightly disagree, or definitely disagree. So statement 1 is, I often notice small sounds when others do not. Statement 2 is, I usually concentrate on the whole picture rather than the smaller details. Statement 3 is, I find it easy to do more than one thing at once. Statement 4, if there is an interruption, I can switch back to what I was doing quite quickly. Statement 5, I find it easy to read between the lines when someone is speaking to me. Statement 6, I know how to tell if someone listening to me is getting bored. Statement 7. When I'm reading a story, I find it difficult to understand the character's intentions. Statement 8. I like to collect information about categories of things. Statement 9 is, I find it easy to work out what someone is thinking or feeling just by looking at their face. And statement 10, I find it difficult to work out people's intentions. Now, this one's a little bit more complicated to score. You will score a point if you answered definitely agree or slightly agree on items 1, 7, 8, and 10. For the other statements, you score a point when you said definitely disagree or slightly disagree. If you got 6 out of 10, then that warrants further investigation. But as I said before, this one isn't my favourite screener. The next screener we're going to talk about is another AQ, but this one has 50 statements. This is called the AQ50. This one dives in deeper with areas such as social skills, attention switching, attention to detail, communication, and imagination. So I feel that this one gave a much clearer and balanced view of traits, especially the things like attention to detail and imagination, which often get missed in other screeners. The other thing with this is that it can highlight strengths and not just challenges, which I love because obviously autism isn't all deficits. It is a different way of being alongside our challenges. The next one is bear with me for this one, Ritvo Autism Asperger's Diagnostic Scale, revised. So this one is 80 questions covering social interaction, language, and sensory processing. This one was the first time that I felt like a screener got me. It is more clinically validated, but still, self scoring online can be hit and miss. And then we have the CAT-Q, which is all about camouflaging and masking. So that's like hiding autistic traits. If you've ever been told you don't seem autistic, but you feel like you relate to a lot of traits and you're struggling, this is the one for you. I'll drop links to the first ADHD screener, the AQ50, the AQ10, RODS, R, and the CAT-Q below, so you can try them for yourself. But do just remember, it's not a diagnosis, but it can be a really validating step. Most of these tools were made with certain populations in mind, often cisgender, white, males. So if you're female, non-binary, or from a marginalised background, you might score lower, but not because you don't have the traits or that you're not autistic or don't have ADHD, but because you've masked them extremely well or they present differently. It's also really important to note how many opposites there are when it comes to ADHD, which is being autistic and having ADHD. And those of us that do have both can find these screeners additionally challenging to complete. Me personally, I took the AQ10 and the first ADHD screening tool first. And the first time I took them, my scores were over the cutoff, but they weren't as high as I was expecting them to be. And I honestly gaslit myself for a while because of that. When it comes to being autistic, it wasn't until I did the RODS, R, and the CAT-Q that I actually felt seen and believed that I was autistic. My advice would be to use multiple screeners, but also journal your experiences and listen to other people's experiences. I did a lot of that when I was trying to understand myself, and that's why I've started this channel. So, what should you do next? Well, if your screening results are high, that's a signal to pursue a proper assessment, whether that's privately or through your healthcare system. And if they're low, but you still feel like these traits resonate with you, don't dismiss yourself. Bring any of your experiences to a clinician. And if you don't get listened to the first time, ask for another opinion. I have linked some of these screeners below, so do try them out. But also talk to others, read lived experiences, and know that self understanding is a journey. If this was helpful for you, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. I've got more deep dives coming into my ADHD life, masking, and how I navigated my own diagnosis. But I would love to know, have you tried any of these already? If you haven't and you're about to, don't forget to come back and let me know in the comments. If you've already done them, did they help you or did they just confuse you even more? Honestly, still haven't figured out how to finish these videos, but I'll see you next time.